2020. Quite the memorable year, to be sure, and it was also a very interesting year for cinema. Because of the pandemic, most of the blockbusters were pushed to 2021 and beyond, and so the 93rd Academy Awards ceremony looked a little bit different than most, not only in its presentation, the widescreen, the different venue, but also most of the nominations were for smaller films, a lot of indie movies, projects that didn't make much money because nobody was really watching them at the theater, but still so much excellent work that year, so many amazing Oscar nominations. When it came to the Oscar ceremony held in April of 2021, I was pretty happy with most of the nominations. This is not a year, for example, when I wish like 10, 11, 12 of the 20 acting nominations would go. Best Actor and Best Actress especially are pretty rock solid, but as is the case with every year, there are some excellent performances that were snubbed at the 93rd Academy Awards, performances that I think should have gotten in. As you've seen with my recent two videos, the acting Oscar snubs of 2021 and 2022, I'm going to give you 10 amazing performances that did not get into the Oscars, but should have, and for number 1 through number 5, I will give you the Oscar nomination I would take out and replace with my choice. Are you ready? The top 10 acting Oscar snubs of 2020. Here we go. Number 10, Rosamund Pike, I Care a Lot.
I will grab your dick and balls, and I will rip them clean off.
Okay, so technically this is a 2021 release. I believe it dropped on Netflix in February of 2021. But remember, the 93rd Academy Awards, because of the pandemic, because of a lot of movies shifting in their release date, getting pushed back many months, the Academy decided to recognize films that were released in January and February of 2021. I Care a Lot is one of those. And you know what? I loved this movie. I loved the dark humor, the surprising narrative that is constantly propulsive, and that lead performance from Rosamund Pike. I think in I Care a Lot, she is at the level of her performance in Gone Girl. She is that good. And I'm not the only one who thought so. If you remember, she won the Golden Globe Award for Best Actress in a Motion Picture Comedy or Musical. I thought when she won that, she might have a shot, but that was kind of the beginning of the end for her awards trajectory. I do think some of the subject matter, the tone of I Care a Lot might have turned off a lot of Academy voters. The movie did not show up anywhere on Oscar nominations morning. I really dug this one. I think it's great, and Rosamund Pike, I believe, deserved a Best Actress nomination. Number 9, Bo Burnham, Promising Young Woman.
I don't know if I can live with the threat of this hanging over me. I didn't even do anything.
So most of the attention that award season for Promising Young Woman rightfully went to Emerald Fennell and the lead actor in the film, Carey Mulligan. When you walk out of that movie, you're thinking about the Mulligan performance. Like, she is the show. She is astonishing in that movie. I wanted her to win the Oscar that year for Best Actress. Promising Young Woman did make my top 10 list of the year. I also adore Nomad Land. I don't hate that win for Frances McDormand. I just think a really cool creative win in that category would have been Mulligan. That movie has a killer cast, so many great actors, and you know what? Bo Burnham in Promising Young Woman gave a tremendous performance. I loved his work in that movie. He is such a talented actor and filmmaker. 8th Grade from 2018 was my second favorite film of that year, just behind Hereditary. I'm still upset 8th Grade was completely ignored at the Oscars. And then we have this funny, natural performance from Burnham as the boyfriend in Promising Young Woman. He's got a lot of really interesting scenes in that movie. I thought he really gave that character something unique and personal. I would have loved to have seen a Best Supporting Actor nomination for Bo Burnham. Number 8, Ellen Burstyn, Pieces of a Woman.
That's what I'm asking you to do now. Lift your head and fight for yourself, for God's sakes. Go out there and face that woman.
Now, this movie was a very difficult watch. I kind of struggled in Pieces of a Woman, to be honest. I very much admired the film. It's very well made, well acted. It is a great piece of filmmaking. It's definitely not a fun watch, but there's a lot to love about it, especially those two performances, Vanessa Kirby, who got into the Oscars for Best Actress, and Ellen Burstyn. One of the Oscar nominations I did think was going to happen, even though she didn't get in very much at the precursor ceremonies, was Ellen Burstyn. She's got one fiery scene toward the end of that movie I've never forgotten, and the Academy loves Ellen Burstyn. They've nominated her over and over throughout the decades. And I don't know, it had been a while since her last nomination for Requiem for a Dream, which she should have won for. That's a story for another day. And because of all the Oscar buzz for Vanessa Kirby, I did think Burstyn was going to ride her coattails to a kind of surprise, I guess, supporting actress nomination. Burstyn being recognized in the Best Supporting Actress category for Pieces of a Woman would have been fantastic. Number 7, Mads Mikkelsen, Another Round.
Hele året. Rigtig mange genstande, og derfor skal jeg lige stille nogle spørgsmål her. Ja, sådan. Du er en frisk fyr, vi tager dig.
This movie, oh my god, Another Round is wonderful. It made my top 10 list of the year. It's kind of batshit crazy in all the best ways, and kind of like what I just talked about with Burstyn, I did think Mads Mikkelsen was going to get into Best Actor for this movie because of Oscar buzz building in categories like International Feature Film and Best Director seemed like they were on the table, and Mads Mikkelsen gives a showstopper performance in Another Round. This is an actor who's been doing great work for decades, has never gotten an Oscar nomination. This felt like the right movie at the right time, in a crazy year where nothing was certain in terms of what was going to be nominated at the Oscars. I wanted this to happen for him because he gives a glorious turn in that movie. He gets to play drama, comedy, wild and crazy. Like that last scene. Another Round is an amazing movie, and Mads Mikkelsen would have been an all-timer Best Actor nomination. Number 6, Sidney Flanigan, Never Rarely, Sometimes Always.
Has anyone forced you into a sexual act ever in your lifetime, yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to tell me about it?
No.
It's okay.
What a heartbreaking performance this is. What a beautiful movie. This film, kind of like Pieces of a Woman, is a hard watch at times. The way this story plays out, it is such an important film for our times, and I feel like it's kind of been forgotten about these last few years. I mean, I don't know how many people today are revisiting this movie, but it is a masterpiece. One of the 5 best films of 2020 easily, and Sidney Flanigan in the lead role is just incredible. So grounded, so real and authentic. She has such a presence in this movie, and I was happy to see her get in at the Film Independent Spirit Awards for Best Actress. She also got a Best Actress nomination at Critics' Choice. So she was on the bubble. Like, she was flirting with 5th place, 6th place at the Oscars. I just think the movie itself was so small, never gained enough traction. But if you have never seen this one, do yourself a favor, check out Never Rarely, Sometimes Always. I know you will love that Sidney Flanigan performance. Number 5, David Strathairn, Nomad Land.
What's going on?
Ants. I've got ants.
Oh, ants, they're okay.
No, they're not. They're in my food, Dave.
So kind of like how Carey Mulligan overshadowed Bo Burnham in Promising Young Woman, I feel like the same thing happened in Nomad Land, one of the great movies of 2020. Of course, Frances McDormand is the star. She's the show. She is the person you're thinking about when that movie ends. It is very much her story. But I was also moved by a second performance in that movie. I thought David Strathairn did some lovely work in Nomad Land. It's subtle. It's not super big and showy. It's not the kind of performance that everybody will get behind. But I loved his work in this movie. and I have adored David Strathairn going back decades. I think he is a wonderful actor, always doing excellent work. And I thought he had a couple things going for him. Of course, being in Nomad Land, the movie that went on to win Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actress, so they clearly loved the movie. And then Strathairn having that Oscar nomination for Good Night and Good Luck, that seemed to show me that they would be open to nominating him. It would have been cool for that movie to have gotten more than just the one acting nomination for Frances McDormand. I would have also loved Strathairn to have gotten in too. So for me, in the Best Supporting Actor category, I would take out Sacha Baron Cohen for The Trial of the Chicago 7, a performance and a movie I didn't really care for that much, and replace him with David Strathairn in Nomad Land. Number 4, Helena Zengel, News of the World.
And we don't sing.
Alright, of all the names I'm talking about in this video, she is the one who came closest to an Oscar nomination. She showed up at almost every precursor ceremony. She was the one thing News of the World kept getting nominated for over and over, and I think most of us on Oscar nominations morning thought she had a good chance in making it. I mean, she was always around the 5th place slots, but I just remember thinking they're not going to nominate Glenn Close for Hillbilly Elegy. That's not happening. They're going to give her slot to Zengel, who is extraordinary in News of the World, one of my 10 favorite films of 2020. That's another great movie I don't hear about at all these days. I loved that film. Tom Hanks is wonderful in it. Paul Greengrass's direction is top-notch. It's action-packed and emotional and riveting. And that Helena Zengel performance, I believe she was only about 12 years old around the release of the movie. And as I've talked about many times before, the Academy will often recognize a great child performance. I think what happened here is that News of the World just kind of dropped off everyone's radar by the time we got to Oscar nominations because it wasn't being considered for like Best Picture, Best Actor for Tom Hanks. Sadly, Helena Zengel just barely missed, but she should have gotten in. That would have been a fantastic Oscar nomination. I don't think I'm going to surprise you at all with this one. In the Best Supporting Actress category, I would take out Glenn Close in Hillbilly Elegy and replace her with Helena Zengel in News of the World. Number 3, Kingsley Ben-Adir, One Night in Miami.
I met with a writer in New York a few weeks back. There were 2 guys following us through the airport. I swear it was the same 2.
I thought you didn't trust writers.
Another movie I loved in 2020 was Regina King's One Night in Miami, which is so compelling from beginning to end. 4 powerhouse performances, and these wonderful actors are all playing real people who actually did get together. It's hard to pick a favorite. I love seeing it win a lot of Best Ensemble prizes throughout award season. Leslie Odom Jr. was the person eventually singled out. He got the Oscar nomination. But Kingsley Ben-Adir as Malcolm X, I thought was right at his level. He was terrific in this movie. I mean, we all know and love Denzel Washington's portrayal of Malcolm X in Spike Lee's 1992 film, but Kingsley Ben-Adir brings something new to the character, something fascinating, a completely new vision of the man. I thought he was great, and he did get some love from critics groups. The guy has continued to prove in the years since just how talented he is. He's in the new Bob Marley movie. He was in Barbie. Like, this actor is phenomenal. I would have loved to have seen him gotten into the Best Supporting Actor category. And you know what? There is one other performance I would take out. Not because I didn't admire the performance, but because of category fraud. I would say Lakeith Stanfield in Judas and the Black Messiah is very much a leading performance. I mean, I guess you could argue Ben-Adir is also kind of a lead performance since he's in a lot of One Night in Miami. But because it's a 4-person ensemble and he's not in like every scene, I do think it's a little different. So in this case, in Best Supporting Actor, I would take out Lakeith Stanfield for Judas and the Black Messiah and replace him with Kingsley Ben-Adir for One Night in Miami. Number 2, Delroy Lindo, Da 5 Bloods.
Bloods. You got a bond. We fought in an immoral war that wasn't ours.
When people think about the acting Oscar snubs of 2020, I do think Delroy Lindo for Spike Lee's Da 5 Bloods comes to mind first in a way, because he gives a brilliant, memorable performance in that film. He is magnetic in every scene, and because Delroy Lindo is one of our great actors who's never been recognized at the Academy Awards. There were a lot of first-time nominees at the 93rd ceremony. Delroy Lindo getting in for Da 5 Bloods would have been spectacular. I think we all would have been really happy with that outcome. He deserved it. He was nominated for Best Actor at Critics' Choice, and he got into the Ensemble category at SAG. I think if Delroy Lindo had been singled out at SAG in the Best Actor category, he probably would have made it at the Oscars. But similar to some of the other titles I've talked about in this video, Da 5 Bloods just came up short on Oscar nominations morning, which is a shame. It's a very good movie. Spike Lee getting into Best Director would have been really cool. And Delroy Lindo, I think in the long history of the Academy Awards, that nomination for his performance in that movie would have aged very well. And now this might surprise some of you, I guess, but there's really only one nominee I would take out of that category, Best Actor in early 2021. Pretty much everybody here is awesome, but I was not a huge fan of David Fincher's Mank. Like, I certainly admired certain elements of it. Amanda Seyfried gives a wonderful performance in that. I was happy she got into supporting actress. But you know what? Gary Oldman in that movie didn't impress me all that much. So yeah, in Best Actor, I would take out Gary Oldman in Mank and replace him with Delroy Lindo in Da 5 Bloods. Okay, that takes me to my number one choice, and honestly, when I started prepping this video, her name was the one I thought of first. The lead performance in my favorite movie of 2020. If you watched any of my content this previous October, you know how much I love the horror genre. And to me, one of the very best performances in that genre in the last decade is my choice for the number one acting Oscar snub of 2020, Elisabeth Moss in The Invisible Man.
Surprise.
Now, I will admit, this snub, this omission is not surprising. Elisabeth Moss was never going to receive an Oscar nomination for The Invisible Man, but she should have. Like, it was that good of a performance, and even though the Academy very often ignores horror, I do think this should have been a moment where they ignored their genre bias and given some love to Moss in this movie. That chilling opening sequence where she's trying to escape an abusive relationship, she doesn't have to say a single thing. We know exactly what she's doing and why she's doing it. And then throughout the rest of the movie, her having to put up with this guy while he's invisible. Nobody believes her, of course, but we get all of these tremendous scenes where she's acting with an invisible presence, and it's so well done from a filmmaking standpoint and from an acting standpoint. Elisabeth Moss has proven over the years how talented she is, but in 2020, she not only had The Invisible Man, she also played the famous writer Shirley Jackson in Shirley. So Moss had two tremendous performances that year, and for her to be ignored for both, especially The Invisible Man, just doesn't sit well with me, even though I know it was a scary movie released way back in February 2020. It has a lot of action moments. It's very much an exercise in terror. But you know what? Sometimes you've got to look past the genre and recognize great acting. Elisabeth Moss is doing phenomenal work in The Invisible Man. She deserved an Oscar nomination for Best Actress, and as much as I admired Vanessa Kirby's performance in Pieces of a Woman, that is the nomination here I would take out and replace with Elisabeth Moss in my favorite film of 2020, The Invisible Man. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments below who you think got snubbed in the acting categories at the 93rd Academy Awards. Do you agree with my picks, or do you think I have it all wrong? We'll see you next time at the Awards Contender.